Kim from Love Your Design, and I've got some, I talked a little bit yesterday about the transits that are going on, and what I want to do is go into a little bit more detail now. I'm sitting at my computer, and I'm going to start by making things a little bit bigger for you, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about this channel here, which is a channel that is about emotional completion. This means not only completing emotional cycles from this life, it also means completing emotional cycles from past lives. This is a very deep completion. And I'm sure many of you will be feeling it. I certainly had feedback from the post yesterday that a lot of people have been having a lot of grief. And it's really about releasing a whole lot of stuff from past lives. And I'm going to tell you a little past lives and this life. And I'm going to just show you the circuitry comes down here, it crosses over, and it goes down here and into this channel. Now, what we have here in the 64, I'm just going to go through the asteroids rather than anything more technical, because I want you to get the story of what's coming in through the crown. So the pressure here to complete the cycle and to find kind of 64 sits in the space between things are finished and we're not quite sure how we're going to move on yet. So the energy there is Isis. Now, Isis as an asteroid represents the missing piece of the puzzle, specifically the missing piece of creative action energy. It's almost a masculine kind of, but it's the feminine version of how we use the creative energy, but it's very active. So there's this missing creative piece, this piece that gets us up and moving and makes things happen. So the energy coming in is, I'm sitting in this space, and what I'm looking for is, what's the thing that's going to get me moving to create? Then we come down into the next gate here, and we find Taureau, and Taureau is strength. Taureau is the bull. Taureau says, I have all this power and energy and I need to use it correctly. So until I know how to use this tremendous creative power that I'm starting to connect with, I'm going to be kept enclosed, confined. You can see I'm going to be kept confined until I understand the power of what I'm dealing with here. I just want to come briefly down to this gate here, which is the gate of power, and Ceres is, or Cirrus, some people refer to her, the great mother, well, she's actually a planet, orbits between Mars and Jupiter. She's transiting here at the moment, and this is a gate that says, Sarah says, I need to find the thing that makes my life of value, that makes my life worth living, that brings me alive and makes me say, yeah, I want to be here. I want to be here and do this thing. So she's sitting in this gate that's all about how I use my power and how I use it in ways that make me feel really alive, and also not an isolated individual trying to headbutt life into doing what I want it to do, but powerfully in the flow of energy. So let's go back up here, and you can see how that fits in with this idea of Taureau being confined until he learns how to use this energy in a very creative and powerful way. Now, the circuit, the way the energy flows, it crosses over here and it comes down into the 11. This is how this part of our brain moves this part of our body, and same on the other side. So the circuitry crosses over in the Ajna, and we get to gate 11. This is the gate of thinking outside the box, amazing new ideas coming through. And what we have here is Ixion. Now, Ixion is a centaur, a kind of asteroid, and Ixion says, you know what, when you were a kid, you actually learned that you didn't really have any intrinsic value as a person, but you were commodified. So Ixion is actually calling up the places for each one of us where we have learned to commodify ourselves. So I am only of value to people if I do these things for them, or if I smile nicely, or if I, whatever it is, play the piano for the guests when they come. These are the things that give me value, not intrinsically who I am. So Ixion draws out of us almost like a poison, the places where we were commodified and where we learned to commodify ourselves. Think about that in the big picture of our society, how we're becoming increasingly commodified and only valued for what we can contribute financially to the economy. And so that's actually a really powerful place with Ixion there, sitting on the galactic center in that gate. really big energy. And then we come down to gate 56. So we're talking about being at home here. How do we make ourselves at home in this strange place? This is the gate where our kind of alien self starts saying, Earth, what a strange place. And Sisyphus is there. And it's almost like, this is, I think, where a lot of people are saying to me at the moment, I just can't find a way to be at home here. Sisyphus he pushes the rock up the hill and he gets to the top and the rock comes down again, pushes the rock back up. The thing that Sisyphus does in this busyness of pushing the rock up and then going, I've got to do it again, misses the opportunity for change. So what's important at the moment in gate 56 is that we actually look for the places where we're uncomfortable, where we need to go out into places where we don't necessarily feel at home and find our way there. We have to go beyond. There's something happening at the moment that says we've got to go beyond the temple space to actually stay in the temple praying and feeling really, pious and comfortable. That's all very well, but that's not what the temple's for. The temple's meant to be a basis, a base for us to draw strength from so that we can go out and do great things in the world. So Sisyphus says this is the point of change for us at the moment. And this is why I've been saying we need to get uncomfortable. And then the energy comes straight down here through the throat center to the 33. So I'm just following the human design circuitry here. And in gate 33, we have Venus. And then in the 13, we have the Earth. So Venus and the Earth together creating this channel which says, I need to tell the stories of my past so that I can complete them. So I specifically need to tell secrets, to listen deeply into my own heart, to hear the things that want to come out. So really, we all need to be having conversations at the moment to be able to say, this is what's coming up for me. This is what the past is bringing to me. These are the shards of memory that I have coming up. If you need to talk to someone, you have that conversation and let that come up. If not, do things like journaling or even just talk into put the voice recorder on your phone and talk to yourself. Do something to move those memories. In gate 13, we have Psyche, and we also have Crantor there. Now, the thing with Psyche is there's two things with Psyche. One is that she represents a place where we find our true desires. So there's this feeling at the moment that we need to draw out, not the things that we wanted to get. I was talking about being commodified. So not like, my desire is to play the piano beautifully so my parents will be happy at dinner parties. My desire is, whatever it is, something real, something true, something that's been put on the back burner and now wants to come forth. You might not know what that is, but it's coming out, and I want you to be aware of that feeling. The other thing that's there is Crantor, and Crantor is, again, a kind of asteroid, and Crantor's sudden shifts. So there's the potential here for a sudden shift in your life, in how you perceive things. And gate 13 is also about this whole process of us coming together in ways where we value each other. I've talked a lot about the difference between the tribal and the collective energies. In the tribal energy, our value is what we can give to the tribe. The tribe only survives if we keep the tribe alive. But in the collective energy, what I call the matrix of brilliance, what we have is a circumstance where the network, this matrix, is brighter the more you shine as an individual. So your role within the matrix of brilliance is to be your brilliant self, not to try and keep that matrix alive through, blood and sweat and tears. So it's a very different kind of energy. Crantor sits in that gate and says there's going to be a shift, and it's a shift in how you are relating to life as a whole and what you value in yourself and what you're contributing. And it's a sudden shift when Crantor turns up. Gate 33, we have Venus there, and we also have Nemesis. So we've got some really big asteroids, some really significant asteroids sitting not just in this channel, but coming down into this channel. The energy, the inspiration coming from the head center all the way down to the G center, which is the collective heart. So what Nemesis says is that thing you've been afraid of. That thing you might not even know. It's been a struggle for you. It's been something that's come up again and again in many lifetimes. boom, right here, right now, that's your thing. So all of that, and just one more thing, I think. Let me check. Yes, one more thing. Two more things, actually. Over here in gate 50, we have Uranus transiting in gate 27. And so here in 50, we have the child asteroid. So many people in the last week or so have been saying to me, doing inner child work. Why all of a sudden back to doing inner child work? The reason is Uranus says there's something unique and wonderful about you. There's something brilliant about you, and we need to bring it into the world now. And the child asteroid is saying here in the gate 50, it's saying it's a new era. There's a new era for me. I need to come out and play now. And all of that old commodification, all of that valuing me for all the things that I'm not, that's changing. And I need to figure out what I got from that, what's worthwhile bringing forward from all of this past stuff. What's of value to me and what isn't? What do I want to bring through and what do I want to let go? Hybris is there as well. I don't want to go too much into the psychology, but let's just say here that when we are not valued for who we truly are, we put on a kind of a false sense of value. We pretend to be valued rather than actually just resting into knowing that we're valued. And hybris, which is really, I would say, a disease in our culture, a psychological disease in our culture, this hubris, having to pretend, having to fake it till you make it, all this kind of rubbish that's really the antithesis of authentic simplicity of being. I think that'll cover it. The hubris is falling away through this process. That's huge. And one more thing, which I think is let's take us out into the bigger picture. No, there's two more things still. One more thing that I just do want to say is that when Psyche was wanting to connect with Eros, and Eros was a boy who was just doing what he thought he had to do to keep his mum happy. What I think is happening at the moment is there's a real waking up for women in this process of saying the masculine has failed us. The masculine is not operating in the way in which we need it to, and there's this terrible grief about what's happening in the world. And rather than go to the masculine and saying you should be playing your part, you should be doing your thing, what Psyche did, she didn't go to Eros and say, come on, Eros, get your act together, stop playing these silly games. This is great. We should be having this wonderful life. And instead we're playing silly games. Psyche recognized that in order to be able to have what she wanted, to have her desires fulfilled, she needed to go to Venus. She needed to go to where the power was, and Venus had the power in that triangle of relationships. And so she went to Venus, and Venus said, well, you have to change. You have to change. You have to go through these tasks in order to realize that you are much more powerful and you have much more help than you realized. And so Psyche did these crazy things that she thought was going to kill her every time, but every time she managed to get ridiculous amounts of help from who knows where, and was able to complete the tasks and brought about the outcome, which was her desires. So she continually, with each trial, she put herself into a situation where she didn't know how she was going to do it or what the outcome was. And I think a lot of people would recognize that that's what's going on at the moment. So there is something here about going to, if I can use this phraseology, the great mother or the goddess or whatever, and saying, what do I need to do here? Not trying to go to the masculine, not trying to go to the patriarchy and saying, please keep me safe, please do your task that you've always done. It's not working anymore. We need to go somewhere else and find that connection. Last thing, the reason I think that what's underpinning all of this and what's really huge in underpinning all this is Jupiter. So Jupiter is here in the 5.4, which is here. It looks innocuous. It's just sitting there in gate 5, not a big deal. However, what Jupiter is doing is gone over the Great Attractor, which is a supermassive black hole. I think potentially the biggest black hole in our universe, although I think they may have actually discovered another one or two bigger than it, but it was for a long time the biggest black hole in our universe. So it went over it and then it retrograded and went over it again, and it's coming over it again. So now we have this energy of the Great Attractor, as it's called. And the Great Attractor is a place where we line up with the frequency, with the very specific frequency of our greater purpose in life. So there is something coming that is specifically for you, very particularly your prism of light within the rainbow of humanity. This is your thing that's coming. So there's an energy here that says, really just tune in to what's drawing your attention. Tune into your curiosity. And Gate 4 says, get actively involved in working with that energy. It's not necessarily about you having to know what it is so that you can feel safe and take the steps. You just need to dance with it. You need to move with it. You need to be engaging with it, even though there's this uncertainty about it. Just to add to that, the sun's in Gate 7 here, which I call the getting your ducks in a line gate, because what it says is everything now is on the line. You have your whole armies coming behind you and you're marching out, and you may not know where you're going, but that's okay, because you can just work it out as you go along. But it's like the army, which represents all your resources, all the parts of you, everything is kind of lining up behind you now, and you're moving out. Okay, I think that's just about covers it. It's a lot. It's kind of really hugely galactic, and it's also deeply personal. Of course, I like to work with both ends of that continuum. And lots of love to you all. Kim from Love Your Design. I'll talk to you later. Bye.